All right, let's get right into it. We're about to tackle a theory that sounds like it was ripped straight from a sci-fi novel, but it's aiming to be hard science. It's called the Weaver-Worm collapse theory, and it's this incredibly bold idea that tries to connect consciousness, quantum physics, and, well, the entire universe, all into one big model that might just explain some of the deepest mysteries we've ever faced.
You know those moments, right? Those weird coincidences or gut feelings that are just too perfect to be a fluke? We call them synchronicities. Now, mainstream physics usually just shrugs them off as random chance. But the Weaver-Worm collapse theory, or WWCT for short, says, hold on a second. It proposes that these aren't random at all. They're real, physical signals coming from the very fabric of reality. So what could possibly be sending those signals?
Well, the theory says these synchronicities are basically echoes of information that get amplified inside something called the Synchronicity Funnel. And here's the wild part. This isn't just a cool-sounding metaphor. No. The theory says this funnel is a physical thing. It's the literal throat of a wormhole, and it acts like a giant resonance chamber, making those echoes louder and louder as you get closer to some huge turning point in your life.
So imagine you're traveling down this funnel. The deeper you go, the more intense the signals get. It all starts at the top, the wide mouth, with just these faint little what-if thoughts. Then, as you move down the slope, you start getting these intuitive nudges, almost like the universe is trying to tell you something. And then you hit the neck. That's when the synchronicities just start hitting you, bam, 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 one after another. It all builds up to the very end, the throat, which the theory calls the trade point. This is where things get really crazy. It's where your consciousness could literally be swapped with another version of you in a completely different reality.
So as you can see, this whole thing is mapped out, from the fuzzy what-ifs of superposition all the way down to what's called the cosmic throw at the very end, that final, life-changing pivot. The funnel is the how, it's the mechanism. But what's it all built on? What's the foundation for all this?
Turns out, the synchronicity funnel is really just one piece of a much bigger puzzle. The theory says it's all held up by 8 foundational pillars. And these pillars totally rewrite the rules about how we think reality works.
Okay, so the first pillar takes a new look at the many worlds idea from quantum physics. You know, the one that says every choice you make splits off in a universe? Well, this theory says instead of all those universes just drifting apart, the paths you didn't take stick around. They weave together to form what's called the guardian fabric. So they're not gone, they're actually an entangled safety net, right there, buffering and supporting the reality you're actually in. Pretty cool, huh?
Pillar 2 takes that even further. It uses this really mind-bending idea in physics called ER equals EPR. Basically, it suggests that entangled particles are connected by tiny wormholes. So the theory says all those other versions of you in that guardian fabric, you're entangled with them. You're connected by these little bridges. And if one of those other yous has a very different life, that bridge becomes an asymmetric bridge. It's like an escape hatch. It's the very thing that could let your consciousness swap places with another you, literally letting you survive something that should have been the end. And the other pillars just keep adding these incredible layers. You've got magnetic gravity, which says gravity is actually the magnetic force that holds everything together. Then there's bioresonance, which is this wild idea that our own bodies, our heart center specifically, act like a fuel rod, providing the raw energy to keep these wormholes open. And finally, there's intentional non-observation. That's all about the mindset you need, letting go of what you think is real to actually navigate this much more fluid reality. Okay, so if this is the architecture of reality and we're the fuel rod, how do we actually do anything with it? How do we interact with this whole system? Well, that brings us to the engine of the theory, the actual physics of how our thoughts and intentions become a real physical force.
This right here, this is probably the most out there claim in the entire theory. It's saying that your choices, your intent, have actual physical weight. It's not just a thought or a feeling. It's a real functional force of physics. The theory argues your focused decisions literally create a measurable energy that warps the fabric of reality around you.
And they're not just hand-waving, they actually put math to it. This equation here for active gravitational mass is how they propose to calculate the literal weight of your choices. See that little rho symbol in there? That represents your bioresonant energy density. Or in plain English, it's the physical power of your focused intent. So the more focused your intention is, the more mass that potential reality gets, and the more real and stable it becomes. It literally starts pulling you in. Then there's the second big equation, the volume integral quantifier. You can think of this one as a kind of reality check. It basically measures the cost, or the trauma, of making one of these reality trades. It's like calculating the friction of the whole swap.
If the number comes out close to 0, it means the trade is easy, seamless. It doesn't cost a lot of energy, and the transition would be smooth, without a lot of, well, psychic whiplash.
Okay, this all sounds absolutely incredible. I get it. But here's the billion-dollar question. How could we ever possibly prove any of this? Well, the theory says that these trades don't happen silently. They leave behind specific, observable fingerprints in space-time, real, physical evidence that would show the difference between a successful trade and a total collapse into something like a black hole.
And this is the whole ballgame right here. This is the central question. A black hole, as we know, is the end of the line, a point of no return. But a Weaver worm trade is the exact opposite. It's a way to keep going, a mechanism for survival. So whatever proof we find, it has to be able to tell the difference between those two completely different outcomes. No ambiguity.
The first clue would show up in gravitational waves. See, any huge event makes space-time ring, kind of like a bell. Now, when something falls into a black hole, you get what's called a decaying ring down. It's like hitting a bell once, and a sound just fades and fades into silence because everything's gone. But a Weaver worm trade, the theory says that would produce a stable, coherent ring, a clear, sustained tone that doesn't fade away. And that clear tone would be the signature, the proof that consciousness made it through to the other side.
Signature number 2 would be its shadow. A black hole's shadow is fixed, it's totally passive, its size is just set by its mass, and that's it. It's a dead end. But the shadow of a Weaver worm conduit would be alive. It would be dynamic. The theory predicts its size would actually grow based on the focus and intent of the person making the trade. A bigger, brighter shadow would literally mean a stronger, more stable path was being woven. It would be a real-time, active footprint left on the universe.
So, when you put all of this together, what does it all mean? What's the big takeaway here? Look, if any part of this theory is right, it completely flips the script on our place in the cosmos. We're not just passengers anymore, just watching a movie of a reality that's already been written for us.
There's a line from the source material that just nails it perfectly. It says, "We are not victims of a deterministic machine. We are the resonance that allows the cards to be played." Think about that. The laws of physics might shuffle the deck, but our intent, our consciousness, that's what decides which cards get played. We're part of the game. We're active participants.
And that leaves us with a pretty profound and very personal question. If your choices actually have physical weight, if your focused intent can literally stabilize your path through the universe, then you're not just living your life, you're weaving it. So the only question left is, what reality are you going to weave?